So the existing SCADA system that we were using, a part of that was built on Windows Server 2012 R3. And so about three and a half years ago, I became aware of the fact that that software is going to be ending its end-of-life support in October 2023. So I contacted the vendor and I said, I can upgrade my Windows, right? And they went, no, you have to buy a whole new system. And it was going to be expensive. So I said, okay, let's put a pin in that. And I literally just started Googling different SCADA systems that were available on the internet and saw the VTScada website, went there, nice website, could download a free trial. The pricing was very attractive, is easy to love. So I downloaded the trial, I started playing with it. Fairly quickly, I realized this is going to be the system that I want. Right. So I talked my boss into letting me get one development license bought. We could squeeze that in, and we did that. And I just started developing the system in between my other duties. I'm a one-man shop. I do PLCs, touchscreens, the radio network, cybersecurity, everything. So right. I wasn't working on the SCADA upgrade full time. When I was getting a chance to work on it, it ran very smoothly. I had no problems. It says instantly intuitive. Yeah. It is. So the original system that we were using, the drawing tools were extremely primitive and hard to use, but it allowed you to import graphics images from something you developed outside. So I did this first upgrade back in, I think, 2015, and that was when the whole concept of high-performance HMIs, high-performance graphics, was just kind of becoming a thing. Right. And I liked a bunch of what that standard talked about. But at that time, I thought, well, I'm at least going to get something out of this upgrade that's of value to me, rather than it's an expensive upgrade just so we can run it on a newer version of Windows, but everything is still old and clunky. I thought, I'll at least get some newer graphics out of it. Right. So I went outside of that. I found a vector-based graphics program that I could work well with. So I settled on a design, an aesthetic that was basically just very flat, simple, two-dimensional images. You've seen them. A pump is literally, it looks like a very stylized, cartoonish shape. It's something that when someone with no training sits down, they can go, that's a pump, that's a valve, that's a conveyor. You fast forward a few more years, I land on VTScada. I've already got this library of all of these graphics that I've built. So I already had all that in the bag. I was able to reuse all of those graphics, and VTScada is beautiful in how it pulls in and works with those graphics. For one thing, one place I deviate from the high performance graphics model is they say no animations. I respectfully disagree. I think if you have a simple graphic that can show something turning, that's a good indication that that pump is running. Right. I think we're visual creatures, that works well. So I had done things like that in the previous systems, and it was difficult because I would have to, externally to the SCADA system, create the different frames of the image, put them together in a little utility that would stitch them together into an animated GIF, and then import that. Right. With VTScada, it was literally just, you have your images, you put them in a directory, and you say, give me an animated image that's from that directory, and it's there. Yeah, we've got so we had a system where we've got a dump pit external to the plant that vac truck drivers and septic truck companies use. And so in the past, they would have to drive their truck down. When they dropped off, they were supposed to notify the lab what they're dropping and how much, who they are. And the way that would happen before is they'd have to walk into the lab, physically tell one of the lab techs, and he would write it on a whiteboard. It's about as low tech as you can get. And usually what that meant was that they had to not stop the dump pit, but drive down through the parking lot of the plant, walk in, talk to the lab guy, then get his truck turned around. Sometimes it's a B train, go back up to the pit, get that all situated, and then dump and leave. So, and that worked, but it was very inconvenient for everybody. And after hours, what happens if the plant's closed and they want to drop off? So what we did was set up a touch screen up the dump pit and a video camera on our security system. And so now when they come to dump, they basically just come up there. It's a very simple system. First menu is who am I? Second one is what am I dropping off? Who's it on behalf of? How much is it? And then go. And what that will do is I've encoded each of those buttons on those menus to just be an integer value.
Right.
So then when they hit enter that record, that goes into my historian. VTScada is scanning the data from that touchscreen, and it just becomes a record of whatever it is, half a dozen or 8 data points. So then what I'm able to do in VTScada, because it's in the historian, I've got all those records now there. I've got a page I can pull up that's a grid, and it just shows here's all the records, and it decodes for me. So now entry number 1 becomes Joe's septic service, and it's for this quantity, which is, you know, sewer water, and it's this many gallons or this many cubic meters. And so I've got all those records, and then very simple, it took me 10 minutes to come up with the, you know, make a report that will just basically dump that data out to an Excel spreadsheet. And I've got a little macro in Excel that from that can automatically generate reports. It took the work for my lab guys down by several hours a week, because they'd have to manually enter all that data, tabulate it, figure out how to generate these reports. Now it's automatic. You know, so there's an example, right? I mean, it sounds like a small, simple thing. Yeah, the Postit Notes, you want to stick a Postit Note on a screen, a physical Postit Note, you can do that in the SCADA software.
Right.
So it was something that I didn't know if my guys would use. We used to have a note-taking system, and it just didn't get utilized.
Right.
I told one of my first operators about it. I showed it to him. They just ran with it. He explained it to the other guys. They were popping them up all over the place where they needed them, saying, you know, this pump's down for maintenance. We've disabled this part of the process until tomorrow. And it's just seamless. So once the product was developed, and I was, okay, so old system's running, I popped the new system down beside it, running in parallel. So for a period of time, the idea was, you've got the old SCADA, you got the new SCADA, they're both running in the control room. Operators can use either one. I envisioned, you know, we're gonna have this for a couple of weeks, and then we'll turn the monitors off on the old system and see who complains. That was what I did the first time, it worked well. This time I set the new system up. I explained to the first guy, you know, over the next week or two, try to use it. After the first day, he said, yeah, you can turn the old system off, and I did. And never heard another word about it. It was totally seamless. Okay, so, and this is going to be hard to get apples to apples, because the old system was hardware and software licensing, but then there was also all of the engineering time and the whole team of people that needed to come down to settle this up. It's not like VTScada where you download one file, say install, and then say here's my license, and then go get the application, go away, have coffee, come back, and it's there. It's a whole other process. But having said that, and I did my development, I was able to do my development in-house instead of hiring it out.
Right.
So having said all that, and it's not really apples to apples, it's about a factor, I spent about 1/10 the cost to build this new system with VTScada, doing it myself in between my other tasks versus having to hire that work out.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks.